Apple just announced several new iOS 18 features, and some of these are extremely impressive. So in this video, we're going to cover everything Apple just announced ahead of WWDC next month. And keep in mind, these are all accessibility features. So this is something that Apple has done for the past few years, where they show off new accessibility features for Global Accessibility Awareness Day. All right, so the first feature they showed off is one that I think a lot of people are going to benefit from, even if they are not necessarily disabled or rely on accessibility on a day-to-day basis, and that is vehicle motion cues. So this is a feature that might help reduce motion sickness, and the way this works is Apple calls it a new experience for iPhone and iPad users that can help reduce motion sickness for passengers in moving vehicles. So basically, animated dots on the edges of the screen represent changes in vehicle motion to help reduce sensory conflict without interfering with the main content. And this uses pre-existing sensors that are built into the iPhone and the iPad. So think the gyroscope and all the other sensors, they work together to recognize when you're in a moving vehicle, and it will respond accordingly. And what's cool is that Apple says this can be set to show automatically, but it's also going to have a toggle in Control Center where you can turn it on and off from the Control Center. And I would imagine that if there's any settings for that feature, they're going to be under accessibility and then in motion. In this tab, we'll probably see a toggle here as well as in the Control Center. And again, I think that's going to be a big one for a lot of people. Now, this next one might be even crazier, and that is eye tracking. So this uses AI to allow you to navigate throughout iOS and iPadOS with just your eyes. And it's not just the home screen either. It's not just like opening up applications. It also works in applications. So you can use dwell control to activate each element, and you can access additional functions such as physical buttons, swipes, and other gestures just with your eyes, nothing else. That is amazing. And this uses the front-facing camera to set up eye tracking in the first place, probably similar to the Vision Pro. And it's going to calibrate within seconds, and all that data is going to stay on device. And keep in mind, this feature and all the other accessibility features are designed for users with physical disabilities. It's not meant for people who have no physical disabilities. Now, you can use it, but it's not necessarily meant for you. So it's not going to be super robust and like incredible like the Vision Pro. This is just meant for those with physical disabilities. Now, this next one is also really cool, and it's something that I can see non-accessibility users using, and that is music haptics. So this gives you haptics to the beat of music, and this is meant for if you're deaf or hard of hearing, but like I would imagine a lot of people are probably going to use this even if they are not deaf or hard of hearing. So the Taptic engine in the iPhone is going to play taps, textures, and refined vibrations to the audio of the music. And Apple has already said that this works across millions of songs in the Apple Music library, and is also going to be available as an API for developers. And you can see from Apple's visual that they shared, there is a new icon to represent when this feature is turned on. So it's to the right of the song, and you can see it's like this little music icon with these little circles to indicate, you know, vibrations or haptics. So I would imagine that you can probably tap that to turn it on or off. And this looks like it will also work on the lock screen, not just inside of the music app. So this next one is interesting, and I feel like I've seen this somewhere before, but it's vocal shortcuts. This allows you to assign custom phrases that Siri will understand in order to launch shortcuts and complete complex tasks. So here is what the setup looks like. So it says you'll choose an action and record a phrase in order to teach your iPhone to recognize your voice, and then after that you will have to say it 2 additional times, and then from the home screen or wherever you can say that phrase, and in this instance it will open up activity rings because you said the keyword rings that you just registered. So that's something pretty cool that, again, I feel like non-accessibility users are even going to benefit from. Now, this next one is Atypical Speech, and this is going to enhance the overall speech recognition on the iPhone, and it's going to use machine learning to recognize speech patterns. So if you have conditions that affect your speech, such as cerebral palsy, ALS, or stroke, this is going to help, better understand you now. Your phone is going to better understand the way that you talk and the patterns of which you talk in. So that combined with vocal shortcuts is going to be great for those who have, a speech disability where sometimes Siri may not recognize what you're saying. Now, also coming in iOS 18 are some CarPlay features in terms of accessibility. So we're going to have voice control where you can navigate CarPlay and control apps with just your voice. sound recognition, where drivers or passengers who are deaf or hard of hearing can turn on alerts to be notified of car horns and sirens. And then for those who are colorblind, CarPlay is going to add color filters. That's going to make the CarPlay interface visually easier to use, and additional visual accessibility features, including bold text and large text. And those last couple, again, are going to be features that maybe non-accessibility users want to use as well. If you want to make the text larger, or if you want to make the text bolder, you can do that. And also voice control, I can see a lot of non-accessibility users using that as well. And then Apple also mentions a few other iOS 18 accessibility features. So we have VoiceOver. This is going to include new voices now. So VoiceOver is not new, but we're going to have new voices in iOS 18. It's also going to have a flexible voice rotor, custom volume control, and the ability to customize VoiceOver keyboard shortcuts on a Mac. Voice control is soon going to offer support for custom vocabularies and complex words. The magnifier application, which I actually use quite often, I'd say a couple times a month, that is going to offer a new reader mode and the option to easily launch detection mode with the action button. So if you have an iPhone 15 series or presumably the iPhone 16, you're going to be able to use this button right here, this action button, to launch the detection mode within magnifier. And for users with low vision, hover typing is going to come in iOS 18. That's going to show larger text when typing in a text field and in a user's preferred font and color. The live speech feature is going to include categories and simultaneous compatibility with live captions in iOS 18. And for those with physical disabilities, the virtual trackpad for assistive touch is going to allow you to control your device using a small region of the screen as a resizable trackpad. So that will be very convenient. And if we go into accessibility and go to switch control, this is also going to get some enhancements with iOS 18. So it looks like this is going to include the option to use the cameras in the iPhone and iPad to recognize finger tap gestures as switches. So if you go into switches here, there's going to be a new way to, have a source here, I would imagine, as finger tap gestures. Braille users are going to get a new way to stay in the Braille screen input for faster control and text editing. There's also going to be added support for multi-line Braille with dot pad, and also the option to choose different input and output tables, along with the addition of Japanese availability for Braille. And one of the big new accessibility features in iOS 17, which is personal voice, is going to get enhanced with iOS 18. So you'll soon be able to create a personal voice using shortened phrases, and it's also going to be available in Mandarin Chinese. And then Apple also mentions visionOS accessibility features that are coming later this year. So they mention system-wide live captions, which is going to be really nice for the Vision Pro, reduced transparency, smart invert, and dim flashing lights. Now, I've had a lot of questions. I posted this big thread over on X, and it got a lot of attention, but also a lot of questions. A lot of people have been asking, will these features be available on older devices? And I would say that most of these most likely will. I would say that most of these are going to be available on any device that can run iOS 18. Now, sure, there are going to be some features, especially the more sophisticated features. They're going to be, exclusive for maybe the iPhone 15 or iPhone 16 exclusively, but I would imagine that most of these that I mentioned will be available for all devices that can run iOS and iPadOS 18. And the specific feature that I'm worried about being an iPhone 16 exclusive is the eye tracking feature, because Apple said that it uses AI. They specifically mentioned artificial intelligence. So that has me wondering if it's going to rely on and it's going to require a new and improved neural engine that's maybe only in the iPhone 16 series. So we'll see. It might be for iPhone 15 and 16, or it might be available to everybody on iOS 18. It's hard to tell at this point. Apple did not specify that, but I would imagine, again, most of these will be available for all devices. So what do you think about these iOS 18 accessibility features? Are they something that you're going to use? Do you have maybe a family member or friend who relies on accessibility? What do you think overall of these upcoming features? And again, keep in mind, the main non-accessibility features are going to be shown off at WWDC in June, where Apple unveils iOS 18. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on all of my upcoming videos on iOS 18. And I'll see you guys in the next one.